Unmute. There you go.
Okay, so I'd like to call the District of Port Hardy regular council meeting of Tuesday, January 10th to order. Respectfully acknowledging that we're holding this meeting on the traditional territory of the Quadra Peak, Tesla. Approval of the agenda. Councillor Tidbury, Councillor Smith. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Excuse me. Adoption of minutes of the special council meeting held December 13th for adoption. Councillor Tidbury, Councillor Dorwood. Any comments, questions? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Minutes of the Policy and Governance Committee meeting held December 13th, 2022 for adoption. Councillor Tidbury, Councillor Smith. Any comments? All in favor? Carried. Minutes of the regular council meeting held December 13th, 2022 for adoption. Councillor Tidbury, Councillor Smith. Any comments? All in favor? Thank you. So we have some delegations. We have John Horn, Executive Director, Connective Nanaimo, Azura Keens, Case Manager, and Teresa McDonald, Case Manager for Rent Bank. Welcome. So I am Mayor Corbett Labatt, and I don't know if you want to go around the table. Councillor Roberts.
I'm Fred Robertson, a councillor with the District of Port Hardy.
Dennis Dugas, councillor of the District of Port Hardy.
Thank you, John.
John Tidbury, District of Port Hardy, councillor.
Trina Smith, Councillor, District of Port Hardy.
Brian Texmo, councillor, District of Port Hardy.
Janet Dorwood, Sandra Town.
Very good. Thank you for having us.
I'll let you take it.
Would you like us to proceed then? All right, thank you, ma'am. I'll just bring up the PowerPoint. That's because everyone see that?
Not yet. Hang on.
Okay. Just gonna make it sharing.
There we go.
How about now?
Yep.
Got that? Very good. We've solved the first technical problem. That's good.
So we're from Connective Support Society. I'm Teresa McDonald, one of the Rent Bank case managers. This is John Horn, wave, the executive director of Connective Society here in Nanaimo, and Azura Kynes, who's a case manager. And we're here to just tell you about Rent Bank, what we do, who we help, and how you can help us. So what we do is provide financial assistance in the form of an interest-free loan that's repaid over 24 months to people who have come upon just a sort of like an economic crisis for the month, and they just don't have money to either pay their first month's rent, or they're in arrears, or they need some help with their utilities, or a combination of the two. Currently the maximum amount for a single person is $1,500, and for a family it's $1,800, and it's to help keep housed people housed. So that's what we do. There's a series of things they have to send to us, and then we have an approval committee that allows us to decide whether it's a yay or nay case, depending on what's going on with them. And
So currently our Rent Bank at Connective Support Society is covering the city of Nanaimo as well as the regional district of Nanaimo. Now our goal is actually to expand the Rent Bank to the majority of Vancouver Island. So currently the regions other than Victoria, the Comox Valley, and Cowichan are actually being served by the Rent Bank that's in Kamloops. They have a province-wide rent bank, and they help all the smaller communities. But what we're trying to do is take that out of their hands. So our goal is to take over the Mount Waddington Regional District, the Alberni Clackett Regional District, and the Strathcona Regional District, and all the small municipalities in those districts, including Port Hardy. And the whole goal there is just to give a more localized approach. We're a lot closer. We understand the issues on the island as well as our housing issues that the island does have right now. And also just to be able to be closer to connect with supports to make it more accessible. So we have the ability to contact local nonprofits, connect with them and make it so that anybody applying for Rent Bank that might have barriers with technology, communication, accessibility, or living remotely has a closer point of contact to apply for the service. So currently we're going to all these districts and communicating about Rent Bank, and also going to connect with those local resources as well. And we do also provide quarterly reports to the city of Nanaimo right now, who is giving us some funding, and we would be proceeding to do that to all the regions that we'd serve as well in the future.
So one thing we would also do is when we go into local communities, we would help to spread the word about the Rent Bank. Some people are familiar with rent banks and their services, but many people are not. And the disadvantage of having a Kamloops-based society provide the service to the island is they're not able to effectively communicate in smaller communities as to the service that's available and how it works. So one of our roles would be to connect with both yourselves as local government, but also with social service providers in or around your communities in order that they can, support their clients in asset and rent bank loans and having a broader awareness amongst the local residents of the option that's there for them. So I'm here to talk a little bit about the money. Right now, as Zura indicated, we serve the region of Nanaimo and the district of Nanaimo. And we have been receiving funding from the city of Nanaimo for about $116,000. We've been using that to provide the loan capital, sort of capitalizing our loan bank, if you will. And then we have annual operating costs, which is the staff wages and the cost of, housing and paper and all that sort of thing. You'll see that there, it's about $65,000 currently to serve the regional district and the city of Nanaimo. If we propose and then we wish to move forward to serve the rest of the island, we would probably need an additional $30,000 in operating expenses and probably roughly $100,000 in additional capital. I will say that the $116,000 we received from the city of Nanaimo, we got that in 2021, March of 2021, and that has held us to date. And here we are in January of 2023. So $100,000 loan capital is not an annual amount. It's an amount that so far should take us about 2 years worth of loans. But the operating costs are annualized, of course, because they're staff wages. Really, there's a lot of processing. We have to manage the payments. If people's payments bounce, we have to connect back with them. We're not bankers. We don't go chasing people hard for their money, but we do remind them of their payments when they're about to be coming out of their bank account. And we do follow up if there's a NSF on a payment for us. So typically what we'll do if someone bounces a payment is we'll just add that payment to the end of the loan term. So we never charge interest or fees or any penalties or anything like that. So essentially what we're looking at is in order to serve the rest of Vancouver Island effectively, we'll need to raise additional capital and operating dollars. A lot of the money for the rent bank comes from the British Columbia Rent Bank, who are financed by the BC government as well as some private enterprises, Vancity. And we do have a commitment from them to provide funding to support the rent bank in Vancouver Island, but they have asked us to go and work with our local partners to see if we can get contributions towards this function. So that's essentially why we're standing in front of you today, or really sitting in front of you today. And what we've decided is we're going to ask each jurisdiction for $10,000 contribution on an annual basis. It's expected that the rent bank will be resourced and will continue to operate into the foreseeable future. And so that's why we're making that an annual contribution, because it's not a one-year program. It's supposed to be an ongoing commitment to helping the beleaguered renters in our community. So we're standing before you today to ask for a contribution towards the rent bank, and the number we're putting on the table for you is $10,000. And of course, we expect that you'll go off and confer with your colleagues as to the appropriateness of the amount. Maybe you'll give us more than that. Who knows, right? So one can always live in hope. So this is the ask we've put out to all the member municipalities and the regional districts. And I'm assuming that you will all put your heads together as to how best to do this. So that's essentially the long and short of why we're here today. We're happy at this point to answer any questions or hear any comments that you might have, and we're happy to give us the opportunity to present to you today. So thank you for that.
I also wanted to note too that the money that we are requesting would go directly to operating, sorry, not to operating costs, but to loan capital. And the operating costs, we would be using the money from the province to cover that.
Yeah, we'd like to make your money work in your community, so that's the goal, is to use it for loan capital.
Okay, thank you very much. Any comments or questions from Councilor Dorwin?
Oh, yeah, thanks for your presentation. It's not something I'd ever heard of before, so really good to know. I was just curious, what's the turnaround time when someone applies? I would think they're in crisis when that occurs, and I just wonder what the turnaround time is for applicants.
Absolutely.
Well, we review applications every Tuesday, and the cutoff for a check to be issued is the following day by noon. So if we get people's documents prior to that, we try and put it all together, make it as concise and succinct as possible, and present it to the approval committee. So say somebody got all their information in by the Monday, if there didn't look to be anything outstanding, we'd have it before the review committee the next day, and they could possibly get their check that Friday. Otherwise, it would be the following week. Depending on people's lifestyles or what's going on with them, sometimes they don't get all their stuff into us for a couple of weeks, so it's a variable situation.
Yeah.
But up to 3 weeks, as early as a week.
We do try to remind people as well when they're applying that it isn't necessarily like a next day fix. So if somebody comes to us on the 31st of a month saying that they need their rent for the next day, we do tell people in advance that it's not going to be that quick, and that sometimes there does have to be follow-up questions from the committee, and it can take a little bit longer. So it's better for people to apply earlier. We also liaise with landlords. They're generally, once they have a conversation with us and know that their tenant is in the process of applying, are pretty reasonable about it. The nice thing too is if somebody's just received an eviction notice, we do have that 10 days to kind of work with him too. So most of the time, we can get it done in time. And if not, then people do have some time to look elsewhere because we let them know that it won't be that quick.
Sorry, I think you might be on mute.
Sorry.
Oh, no worries.
Thanks for the presentation and the information about the capital versus operating costs. So my question is about sounds like the $116,000 came from Nanaimo in 2021. Has it been self-sustaining so far? Is Nanaimo planning on putting some more money into the capital fund at this point?
Yes, we've got a request in front of the city of Nanaimo to contribute again to the loan capital portion of the operating expenses. And what I would say is that while we do get a fairly robust repayment rate, and that goes into our revenue as well. So when we get money back, of course, we put it back into the loan capital pool. We're probably averaging about 60% repayment rate. And our discussions with our colleagues across the province, that's pretty consistent. And the mantra from the BC Rent Bank people is, if you're getting 100% of your money back, you're probably loaning to the wrong people. And if you're getting 20% of your money back, you're probably loaning to the wrong people. So that number of 60 is that group who's in need, who really don't have the economic resources to bounce back quickly from a car repair or a sudden bill, you know. So that seems to be about the average across this rent back industry. About 60% of the money comes back to us, and it trickles back, of course, in monthly payments. So, but that is part of the revenue picture. It does go back to feed future loans.
Yeah, thank you again for the presentation. A question I had, that an individual that would apply for assistance, are they just is this a one-time shot like application, or can they do it a number of times? Or are they
So
just
it's-
limited to once?
They can only take out a loan one time, but if they do repay it, then they could apply again. So if they have an outstanding loan with us, they can't reapply for a second one. But we will accept another application in the future if it's been paid off. The other thing too, the only thing about that is we are hoping that people, by kind of crossing the road bump that they're in, that we're helping with, that they can be in a more financially sustainable place after. So that is something that would be looked at if they were in need of applying a second time. Just the factors that might lead to them needing that second amount of assistance, but.
Yeah. One thing we do is when we look through the people's accounts, we ask them for a couple of months worth of bank statements. We do try to help them identify if they're in a perpetual state of crisis. It's probably not going to be solved by a rent bank loan. And if we can see that their lifestyle is exceeding their income by a large margin, then rent bank loan is not going to help either. So we do look carefully at their circumstances and to see if there's a perhaps more appropriate place we could refer them to debt counseling or those sorts of things, you know. But yeah, there certainly is a mixed bag of people who come to apply to us.
Yeah, so basically it's an emergency assistance.
Yeah.
No interest, no charges. So unlike the payday loan companies who charge, 24% daily or whatever, our goal is to keep people out of the grips of the payday loan industry, because that's just a terrible place for people to land and they never get out sometimes, right? So it's really about fending off the loan sharks essentially, and giving those folks a legitimate option that's not, their brother-in-law or the payday loan company.
Have you also made application or talked to the Mount Washington Regional District?
Yes, we have. We have canvassed the island up and down. So pretty much everybody, yep.
And would you be asking for the same amount of funding from each organization or each municipality?
Yes, we thought about trying to kind of specialize and particularize the amount we're asking depending on the size of the community, but it's hard to tell. I mean, how much money does a municipality have available for these things? So rather than go into a guessing game, we just picked a flat number that we thought was going to work for everybody and put that as the number we're asking for. So it's the same ask for everybody, regardless of your size or wealth, I suppose.
And essentially, it's just kind of a guess, and we'd be grateful for any amount that we could receive from any of the municipalities.
And we know that your member municipalities will come together at the regional district and say, hey, those guys asked me for 10 and those guys asked me for 10. And so I know you'll put your heads together and come up with how we're going to, what are we going to do for these folks? So we thought we'd leave it in your good hands to determine what's the best way to go.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? So thank you very much. And you're right, we will take this back and we will discuss it. We don't make.
Yeah. By the way, but we are talking about the operating year starting April 1st of 2023. So that's the year, the date at which we begin to provide service to the rest of the Vancouver Island, North Island, etc. So as we're looking for funding, we are looking for a target start date of April 1st.
Perfect. Thank you very much. And we are going into budget and so we'll be in discussion.
All right.
Okay.
We thank you for your time and your patience tonight and appreciate your consideration of our request.
Thank you for coming, and you're welcome to stay online and listen to the rest of our meeting if you like.
Oh, and do you have any zoning? I'm a planner. Do you have any hot topic zoning bylaws? No? Oh, gosh. Oh, well. My little planner heart, I'll have to go somewhere else for that, I guess. All right, well, we'll decline, but thank you anyhow for asking.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Good night.
Good night.
No.
So next on our agenda is Rosalind Glenn, Executive Director, Hardy Bay Senior Society, and Donna Galt as well, a director with the Hardy Bay Senior Society. So I'm up to the table and thank you for coming. I don't think you need to be introduced to everybody on council. I think you know.
No. But you had a bit low. Just a bit low. Just one correction, I am not the executive director of the seniors. We don't have one. I'm the chair of the senior society. And I'm now the treasurer.
Oh, you are? Okay, I wasn't quite sure
Official.
if you were the treasurer.
I've twisted around quite badly. I think you all got a copy of the report, but I will read it to you. is report to the district for our fee for service funds for administration assistance for the years 2021, 2022. We want to say up front that we really appreciated the kind donation, and we say that we have used it very wisely. We applied in 2020 for $7,000 and we received it on August the 5th, 2021. The first thing we did was to advertise and post for an administrative helper. We did quite a few interviews and we had some correspondence. And I would say that the $7,000 did not allow us to get some help in the office. In fact, a couple of people were, I wouldn't say downright rude, but it was a laughable experience at the wages that we were offering. I mean, because they had to work to suit our time schedule, which is very vague. We don't have any set hours to go and work in the office. So what we found out in the end was that we could get a contractor to work from their home. And the main thing that we needed was writing grants. That was very important to us. And I have to admit that Donna and my skill sets did not match the grant providers with the amount of stuff that they needed. We were not very good in 2020 and 2021 at writing grants. But because of the grant writers that we were able to hire, we have received over $100,000 in grants in the last 15 months. We did spend a few dollars on taking a training course to allow us to service and install the CanConnect devices, which ultimately led our seniors to being more connected, less socially isolated, and have given us the ability to be more aware of the technical solutions. In fact, today I had 2 calls on CanConnects that no longer worked because of the power outage, and I was able to direct the people over the phone how to put it back on.
Oh, right.
So yeah, I was very pleased with that. I didn't have to call John. I didn't have to send John up there. So we got that fixed today. When the power goes out for more than 5 or 6 hours, the CanConnect goes black. And people do not know how to put it back on because the home button is covered by the cover from the CanConnect device. So you have to have the trick in order to bring the home button back up. And during COVID, we learned to work around the closures by getting the job done from our own homes to manage the centre's affairs and keep the grant contractors on course. It was a very exciting yet stressful 2 years. CanConnect and the grant made it possible to be recognised by the Mayor, the Premier of BC and our MP, Rachel Blaney. In 2022, we received a further $7,000 on October the 27th, which we have just touched with the first payment for $550 to our grant writer. And the balance will be used for our new website. One of our grant writers has set up the MailChimp, and we have to take some training on how to get our mail out without me every Sunday night typing everybody's email into my iPad, because you cannot put a contact list on your iPad without having a laptop to do it. And I don't have a laptop to do it. So sometimes I forward the previous week's email, take all the stuff out, put the new stuff in, but somebody has changed their email address and it doesn't tell me that a server has rejected one email address. So then I have to start all over again. And sometimes it's 11 o'clock on Sunday night when I'm trying to get the email up. So the MailChimp has now been set up, the website has been set up, and so far it looks really, really good. But we still have to take some training on how do we manage the website, because so far we cannot manage the website and we cannot manage the MailChimp. But it's one of the things that we're going to take some training on later this month and then start sending our mail out that way. So that's the upgrading of our own skills. This time next year, we'll be able to tell you exactly where that balance was spent. And we thank you for taking the time to speak to us, and we thank you for your trust in our centre. As you know, the senior centre has now become the socialising centre for the entire North Island. And our membership as of today is 301. And in 2019, it was 71.
Wow.
So we're here to brag about our seniors, and we're thankful that most of you are members. So do you have any questions for me? Yes.
Just a thank you so much for all that you've done for our community and for even going into the middle of the country and shouting out the good work that you've been doing here in our community. We're so lucky to have you, and just thank you so much.
And I want to remind everybody, we have the words to make these grants. We even have the brains to figure out what we want it for. We even know how to spend the money, but we cannot get it into that system that they tell us to do. And I think we've bothered everybody at this table probably once.
Yeah, one
And
time.
it's embarrassing. And each time we do a grant, it's just another way to do it. And you think, oh, how can I do that?
They change all the time. Now we're going through portals. We had no idea what a portal was a few months ago. But we do have three, we have had 3 grant writers. 2 are no longer able, but one is still gonna be, is gonna take a webinar tomorrow and apply for another grant, which we still want the ED. We never did hear back on the grant where we applied for an ED because the senior centre is getting to the stage where it needs somebody there, paid professional to run the centre. As volunteers, we spend a lot of hours there, Donna and I. Basically, John was with us today. He said, "Oh, we don't have any life. We just live in here." But the amount of paperwork that the centre is doing now has increased significantly. I mean, the envelope for bills used to be like that, and this week today, Donna couldn't even get them back in the envelope.
Have to get bigger envelopes. Yeah. So I've been thinking and was talking to Rosalind, do you want us to continue? Because we're almost a social, but we're sort of like a welfare state. We're working like we are a nonprofit, but we're working more than just having fun.
Yeah, we're social assistants. We get a lot of calls with regard to housing, health, things that we're not qualified for, whereas we do need to have somebody who's taken some training, who can run the office and can answer the questions. I mean, we're talking about the health unit, about the seniors advocate, and that is what is needed. But the senior centre needs somebody to start running it. My term is up in November. I've done 3 terms and I'm not allowed to run anymore. So I'll be retiring. I'll have turned 80 and I think it's time I can start working. So, but the senior centre, we got 2 new members today. I don't even know where they came from. People are just coming in and saying, can we join your society? Because any grants that we do definitely goes back and it improves the seniors' life.
That's important, but I just thought you might give a little bit of a thought. Should we stop what we're doing, go right back to being just the bingo games and, okay, I got it. We'll continue. We have grown so much.
You need that paid person and so you guys can support that.
Give the ideas and clap when she does it right, or he does it right, be in attendance, but not be the ones that are pulling it all.
Councillor Robertson.
Yeah, no, I think you kind of touched on it already. I remember the seniors advocate talking about it as well, and that was how easy or difficult it sounds like it would be to get. I mean, the challenge for any volunteer organization is funding and stability in funding. And as long as you have to chase grants all the time, then that stability doesn't exist. And so I don't know if you know of, or are there any programs out there where there's consistent year after year funding for positions with senior centers? For instance, do those positions exist anywhere else in the province, particularly in rural areas?
We don't know.
I don't know. We know there's another grant we can apply on and we can say, we're gonna say,
Yeah,
will this money come in and support an ED in a half-time position?
yeah. But I mean, again, you need stable funding year over year, and
I think everybody's looking for the grants to keep them going.
and I think one of the things that we can do as a council is look to government for stable funding as well.
Okay, that would be wonderful.
Yeah,
And thank you for what we're doing, and apparently my membership
you're
was just
saying not everybody's
renewed. I
stable,
was
you're
told
saying.
it was renewed.
Councillor Smith.
Yes, I was just gonna ask, you have applied for an executive director grant?
Well, there was a grant that came out last December and it was a United Way one. And it was basically a lottery, you put your name in and then they said they would let you know, but we never heard anything. But they still haven't given the funding out, and that went up on the website yesterday and there's no information. So the girl that did the applying for us, I'm having a meeting with her tomorrow.
It's a research thing. It's like getting grants.
We're always searching the web to see.
Oh, gosh,
I mean, the
yeah.
one from the Second Harvest and the Ecclesiastical and Benefit Trust, which is our latest one. I found that on Facebook. And we just applied and he gave us $25,000 to provide, meals for 60 people for 40 weeks.
Amazing. When you get the money, you have to spend it on what they want you
Yeah.
to spend. it on.
So there's
That's
never
why
any-
we got the money, so
Yeah.
we can't just simply take it out and start spending it out.
And when we started, and I know Councilor Texmo, you're on it, but when we started by giving the extra money to the seniors, it was on the advice of the seniors advocate to use this, and then when they applied for a grant, using some of the money from the grant to go towards like an ED or someone else, except now the grants won't allow that.
That's right.
They're very strict on it,
It used
so
to be 10%, but now that most of the grants don't have any administration.
there's no
Right.
rolling it over
Yeah.
sort of thing. Councilor Texmo?
What are we looking at for like financial wise to have a full-time person there? Just out of curiosity.
Not full-time, half-time.
Half-time
I would say 45 to 55,000.
annually.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't think anybody really wants to work for $10 an hour. I mean, what-
No.
I do not the minimum wage.
We could do 3 days a week, we could do 2 days a week.
Yeah.
We have to find that person that can work for us and still survive.
Yeah,
That's the problem.
and then just because I'm not a member, I don't know a lot, but what are the roles this person would be taking on?
Excel,
Yeah,
books, paying the bills,
yeah,
making the budgets.
Yeah.
Answering all the emails, the website.
Yeah.
And then last but not least, that newsletter.
Yeah.
And then there's endless, storage problems and moving stuff from room one to another room.
yeah.
We're endlessly moving stuff around.
Yeah.
And then we have a cook who doesn't get paid and she's doing all the food prep.
Right,
And then we have to run here to get the food from the food harvest and we go across the street. I mean, we're always on the move.
right.
You've got a very, very active group of people.
And we go down, every other week, we go down to Bob McNeil to pick up food too.
Yeah,
Then we give the food out again on Thursday.
Yeah, we have a free shop on Thursdays.
So we're kind of doing the rent thing that this man's doing, the rent bank. We're doing a food bank.
Mm-hmm.
So you can come in and get the food. You can come in and eat the food. You can take the food with you. You can help prepare.
And then we do events when we only had 70 odd members, we did a lot of events, like fancy stuff. We did a fantasy cruise. We did, like 20s. We did a Taki Taurus. We did one big event last year and it was absolutely successful. I mean, Ev Rolf was in charge of that one. She made hats and bibs and everything and we all looked like sailors. But she spent hours and hours working on that. We have a dedicated group of volunteers, but it's not 10% of the membership.
No.
It's the same group that's been going for 10 years.
And we met a woman named Angelina, remember, when she
Yeah,
came?
yeah.
And she taught us how to do the events.
And how to apply for a grant. And actually, the one that really got us going on grants was Pat Morgan. We had
Yes.
no idea you could even get a grant.
Our first $10,000, he walked across the street from the North Island Crisis. He said, Donna, fill that form up. So I never filled the form up for it, filled it out, and then I got 10,000 and we were on our way. We never looked back. It's so much fun. But then they got so sophisticated, the system got so sophisticated and they wouldn't even let us in unless we took the courses, right?
Yeah, we took one yesterday.
Yeah. Oh, yes, they're not, nothing comes easy.
And the I had one grant, this money hasn't arrived yet, but it was the United Way to the Literacy Society, to the Mount Washington Health Network, yeah, and then they give us the money. So it's not just, we don't get any money directly from United Way, which we did before. But I've got to have to say that the United Way speak very, very highly of Hardy Bay seniors. And because of the Can Connect connection that we have, Donna and I were asked to speak at the Age Well Conference in Regina this year. And from that, we have the University of New Brunswick want to partner with us on doing a thing against falls for seniors. We have a gerontologist who wants to study us. He said that the Port Hardy seniors are an anomaly in the seniors world because during COVID, we were one of the ones who did not go down, that we increased our capacity. So he wants to study us. Now we're going to be doing a virtual reality world with somebody from the University of Toronto. And we're going to be doing a big study again with Can Connect Monday. We're going to be speaking to the Minister of Health next week.
So speaking of the University of Toronto virtual reality thing, I was interviewed last week and they're looking for more volunteers. They would prefer anyone over the age of 50 that would be willing to be interviewed, that's a member of the Senior Society, they have a bunch of different questions and stuff like that. And, so if anyone is interested,
And what's the fun part?
what's the fun part?
Is when we create the little building or a little house or the little setting that we want our faces and our stories to be seen. So our grandchildren can go in there, find us, and then we'll talk out to them. I just think it's fabulous.
And it's not just the grandchildren, it's other young people. So learning from, seniors and people that have life experiences.
But the Can Connect, I think, has been kind of a lifesaver. We have it in Eagle Ridge, we have it in Alert Bay Hospital, we have it in a care home down in Nanaimo, we have it in Comox, we have it in Williams Lake. And everybody who has one has to be connected to the senior centre, otherwise I don't know where the iPads have gone. But they have all set up their own network. So anybody who's got one can talk to us, talk to me, talk to their own family anywhere in the world. I talked to Thomas Millett, who was the guy who taught us when he was in Malaysia, and now he's in Vienna.
And I talked to him when I'm from Iceland, but we all have them on our cell phones. We don't have the little iPads, right? They're used for the seniors that have problems with. Well, we have problems. We just been dialed. We can do our phones. We know how to use our phones, so.
Yeah, but we do have some more to give out, and I had one lady asking me for her dad who lives in town. I said, sure, there is no charge for it. The University of Victoria actually pays for the app. So we're quite willing to give them away.
So we call ourselves lab rats now, because everybody wants to study it. Get such a chuckle out of it.
We also called ourselves experienced persons. We're no longer old age pensions.
So it's been a wonderful 10 years. It's
10
been
years, yeah.
10 years. I can't believe that myself. So we've enjoyed it. And the person that sent us there was Bev Parnham. I still remember the day she said, you get over there and see what you can do. And I still remember those days. And when I went there, they weren't happy to meet me.
Well, I'll tell you my first experience. I joined when I turned 60, and then I started going to Arizona. So in 2013, I went to the foot care, and I thought, well, okay, I'll join the seniors. So I sat at the table. Somebody came out and said, you can't sit there. Okay, so I moved to the next seat. You can't sit there either. So I said, where would you like me to sit? Anywhere over there. So I moved to the table. I thought it's the only media. The next week there was an event. So he said, where's your name tag? I said, I don't have one. He said, go over there and get a name tag. So I went over and got a name tag. What do you think you're doing? I said, your husband sent me over here for a name tag. Well, just a minute, I'll make the name tag. But then it was lunch. And I was sitting with Donna. It was Paul McNeil came to visit. So it was Donna and Dave and Paul McNeil people, another couple and me. So they said anybody with diabetes could go. So David went up, all the Paul McNeil people could go up. And then this other couple said, well, I'm going to get up and go for dinner. So he got up. So I thought, well, I'll go with him. So I got up and the president said to me, I won't use his language, but what do you think you're doing? I haven't called you for dinner. And I thought, I've only been here 3 times. And somebody shouted at me every time I came. The place is not like that anymore. You are more than welcome to come in and we make you welcome. And we feed you and we give you cookies, chocolate. You know, our cookie bill is $50 a week.
How many cookies have you and I eaten?
Yeah. But we are thankful for the money that you gave us, because that did direct us on a different path. Because we would have still been scrambling ourselves if we hadn't have taken that direct money that you gave us and employed somebody to help us out. So thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Really makes the seniors group, I mean, all of the seniors very, very popular.
One of these times I'm gonna bring in the Can Connect, so you can, I can show you it. I keep forgetting to do it.
Kenneth, you wanted one for your mum, didn't you?
Yep.
You still want one?
Yeah, well, that would be fun.
Well, we'll get one in here, we'll demonstrate, and then you can take it with it.
It's really easy.
It's super easy. It's a foolproof system. It's and only the registered people can get onto it. So
So she's
if you, so you can't get no hackers or anybody, like, they can't get onto the system whatsoever.
Awesome.
and it's kind of foolproof, right?
Yeah, it's only 3 buttons.
And they're very large.
With the home
Which is
button.
good.
I'm pretty sure I can screw that up.
The home button's covered and you have to know the trick. Switch it back on.
So we have something, so.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Make John, make yourself bring one.
But yeah, just remind me.
Everybody else uses the cell phone and the.
Yeah, I use
Mhm.
my
You
cell
can
phone.
talk to your mom at the cell phone, you'll be able
Yeah.
to do it.
Mhm.
And you
Yeah.
got it, just show them, it's so easy.
Yeah.
And the only thing about that is you have to remember what you got on when you answer.
That's what it looks like on your phone.
So you can
What's your
remind.
Contacts.
And all you have to do is just press it. We'll see if somebody's got the phone on.
My phone's on.
But
But it's just safe and you don't have to worry.
Yeah.
Right? And then she doesn't, whoever you're giving it to doesn't have to get all upset and frustrated because they don't know who it is. And your face comes right up, right? She pushes the.
Here, my phone's going.
Yeah.
And then she.
it's Donna's, actually.
Mhm. Nice
What's
hat,
me?
Donna.
Oh, yeah, what am I gonna
And you
do?
can hear it going.
That's one thing I've learned to do a lot of is wear hats at the senior center, forever putting funny things on. Oh, it's been wonderful 10 years. I can't take that away.
And I'm
And
sure if
there's the
you're
other
not, gonna be the chair after November, you'll still be very involved.
Well, I guess I'll be the past chair because if I have things I'm doing, I'm gonna have to finish them off.
Absolutely.
I don't like to leave anything unfinished. I just hope I'm still on this side of the ground.
Oh,
So do we.
so do we. So thank you, John, and
Thank
thank you, Roslyn.
Thank you guys for coming.
And you're welcome to stay till the end of the meeting, but if you choose not to, we
We understand.
Surprise.
Yeah, we don't have any cookies, sorry.
But you have chocolate, I saw.
Moving on to business arising from the minutes and unfinished business, we have the council action item report for December 13th for information. Any comments? Under new business from Tim Chesker, Secretary, North Island Community Forest. The recommendation that council appoint Dave Weimer as Community Director on behalf of the District of Port Hardy to the NIC FLP Board of Directors for a term ending June 30th, 2024. Councilor Robertson, Councilor Smith. Any discussion?
For choice.
All in favor? Carried. Excuse me. The REDIP support letter for the Aboriginal Coalition to End Homelessness Society for ratification. The recommendation that staff be directed to send a letter on behalf of the District of Port Hardy to the Aboriginal Coalition to End Homelessness in support of their application to the REDIP Economic Capacity Program to support economic development on the North Island. We've already supported this letter for the most part by email because the application had to be in by January 4th. But we do need to approve this. Councilor Tidbury, Councilor Dugas. Any comments? All in favor? Carried. From the Honorable Modena Jaffer, Senator for British Columbia, congratulations. From Ted Olnick, the Manager of Community Relations, Vancouver Island, Sunshine Coast, BC, BC Hydro, for congratulations.
I think he called last night to congratulate us.
In the letter too, it did say about having them come to
Yeah,
a meeting and that, and I think that would be really good to end as well. Maybe, ask for further clearing of the trees.
Yes, along the highway.
Well, I got lots of things.
And can we perhaps time it, after the report that, Dennis has been working with comes out?
Yes, that would be good. And I know that report is in draft form, so hopefully all the council will be able to see it shortly and, have a look at it too. So we need to direct staff to respond to Mr. Olmec about, coming at some point.
Well,
Thank you. And then another congratulatory letter from Annie Dormuth, Director of Provincial Affairs, BC and ED, Jaro Luna, Senior Policy Analyst, BC, and Emily Boston, Policy Analyst, with the Canadian Federation of Independent Business. And again, in that letter, they represent small businesses in the North Island as well. So perhaps we could ask them to come and do, some kind of presentation too about how they can help our small businesses.
Could I suggest we wait until that first annual municipal business report comes out?
Sure.
That they referenced in that?
On to committee reports, the draft minutes of the Finance Committee meeting held December 12th for information. Any comments? Okay, and then on to staff reports, the 2023 council and committee appointments for discussion. So this came up from an email sent to me from Councillor Dugas, and then I sent out an email about doing a little bit of tweaking on the council and committee appointments. And it was to change from the VinTech, Bank of Island North Tourism and Advisory Committee, change from Councillor Dugas to Councillor Smith, and change from North Island NIREP, change from Councillor Dugas to Councillor Tidbury with Councillor Texmo as the alternate. And so I wanted to just to make sure that's okay with everybody and we can endorse it. But as well, I was talking to our Director of Corporate Development Services and to our CAO about adding a second counselor on to the CCC, the Community Consultative Committee. And because it's in policy and not in bylaw, we can easily do that. So if it's okay with everybody, I'd also like to add Trina Smith or Councillor Smith onto that one. And then just continuing, so I'm doing all this blurb and then we can discuss it. On that committee, our Director of Corporate Development Services was wanted to throw out for discussion about changing the name to Advisory and Planning Committee. But then I talked to our CAO, and instead of changing the name, but add the Advisory Planning Committee to the preamble in under the Community Consultative Committee, so that we still could have it under the legislation, but the committee has a broader range of topics that they can cover the way it's written. So that's my preamble to everything. So our Director of Corporate and Development Services has his hand up.
Or do I? I was just gonna say that under section 416 of the act, they actually refer to as commissions. So it's advisory planning commissions are, and the authority set out for establishing those are set out under part 14 powers of the Local Government Act. So it's a specific statutory based provision. And
So I must have missed something. CAO.
yeah, so the reason why I said to put it into the preamble and have it as an exclusive part of the terms of reference within that is because we also have the Board of Variance falls under the CCC. And the CCC, which is also a legislative requirement as well, allows us to keep the same members on a committee. And because we have never, in 7.5 years since I've been here, ever called on the Board of Variance, but we require a Board of Variance in order to operate in case we do get a hardship application that comes in instead of a development variance permit. So this way we actually have these members engaged on a regular basis, but they also have a broader scope. So there is ways that we can make it so that we can create the terms of reference to allow for that advisory planning commission portion of it, but still be able to keep in the liquor licensing and control requirements, but also the ability to hand off any kind of beautification or other kind of community-minded projects that aren't just about the advisory planning commission. So that was my basis on that. Sorry, we didn't have a chance to have a discussion about it.
So going back to, we'll discuss the name in that or changing the terms of reference. But going to the council committee appointments for 2023 with those 3 variations or amendments.
And I just have one more to throw on the table.
Okay.
Louisa has brought to my attention that Natalie is also looking for a alternate on the Vancouver Island North Tourism Advisory Committee as well. So we don't have one named at this point, so just throwing it on the table as part of the discussion.
Good.
Okay, so would Councillor Dugas be the alternative?
Well, can I make a suggestion? with
Maybe.
regards to that? No, I was just saying that if we're trying to, the reason why I brought it up to the mayor was that when we have somebody on the emergency planning within our own internal group, that it would be good if it was consistent if we go external too. So John being put forward already, then it would be just make sense to me that he'd be on the regional one.
Yep.
Go ahead.
But I represent a different group.
But yeah, but not on the emergency one.
No, the emergency one is correct. That's, I go along, but the tourism, I'm represent another group.
Yeah, which is fine. It's
So,
just,
so it's.
Yeah.
Don't put you on as an alternative.
That is correct.
no.
Got it.
So what I was saying, if we're gonna be consistent with what we have already internally, then I believe Trina, you're on the Tourism Advisory Committee and then going on to the other one, then I believe that Mr. Texmo is the other alternate on that. And I'm not sure if he
The
is
tourism as well, are you the alternate on the tourism?
for internally for us.
Oh, okay, so
But I was just thinking, if we're gonna be consistent, it would just be that he would obviously be the choice to go
So
as the
Mr.
alternate.
Texmo, are you okay to be the alternative on?
Yeah.
External as well?
Yeah.
Okay,
We don't have that many meetings.
Okay,
and it's alternate too, so
Yeah.
it's not like.
yeah, you don't have to be there.
Yeah, it's just if Counselor Smith can't make it, then she can call on you and likewise with the emergency. All right, so with those amendments.
You can put down the 25th of this month.
No, I've just got, just to clarify, so I've got Councillor Smith and Councillor Texmo on BidTech. And then I've got Councillor Tidbury with the alternate being Councillor Texmo on the North Island Regional Emergency Planning Committee. And then
Yes.
we're adding Councillor Smith to the Community Consultative Committee and amending the terms of reference on that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean,
Do you want a motion?
could we have a motion, please? Moved by Councillor Robertson, seconded by Councillor Dorwood. Any other discussion? Thank you, everybody. All in favor? Carried.
Thank you.
Okay, on to the Finance Department, December 2022, check and EFT list report for information. Any questions, comments? Going on to bylaw number 1155-2022, revenue anticipation borrowing for 2023 for adoption. Motion, Counselor Smith, Counselor Dorwood. Any comments, discussion?
Maybe I'll just, through the mayor,
Counselor Jacobs?
I would just to the, for the finance, to ask the finance if they could just give a clarification to Counselor Texmo if he's not familiar with this policy.
Director of Finance?
I think I can start. It's a yearly number that comes up, and it's not like that we're guaranteeing a loan. It's just there as a number for if it became a requirement.
Right.
So it's put aside. Is that pretty close to it? Heather can probably explain it better. I've read through it and I don't have the paperwork in front of me, but I know I ask questions myself to make sure before I put the whole thing together.
Sure, just basically what it is it's an anticipation that we're not gonna have any money. So typically municipalities, their biggest revenue is taxation, which doesn't happen until midway part through the year. So we set aside a bylaw that says that we can borrow money up to 75% of our taxation revenue to ensure that we have enough money to pay people up until that taxation comes. And so there are actually some communities that don't have, like, they always dip into their overdraft in order to get through to that taxation period, because that is such a big bulk of money that comes in the middle of the year.
Right.
Within our perspective, we very rarely ever have to dip into that.
Yeah.
But however, it gives us the authority that if it ever had to come to that point, we would be able to do that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Beers. So, if we have a motion, we have a vote on it. All in favor? Carried, thank you. So we have no pending bylaws. Council reports. Let's start with Counselor Robertson.
Thank you, and it being the holidays, have a good Christmas and wonderful time with family, and that's my report. Thank you. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
Thank you, Counselor Robertson.
Counselor, you weren't supposed to say Happy New Year past yesterday.
I'm working off, I think it's the Julian calendar. So
You're safe? Is that what you're saying?
Counselor Dorwood.
Yes, very fine. My portfolio, as like probably everyone's over the last holiday season, but I heard lots of good things from community members about work that our district has done. The recreation programs, the free skate sponsored by the businesses in town. How the winter gardens look, how well the roads were cleared with the big snow event. So yeah, just really buzzing along very nicely. Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Dugas.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, just to let everybody know that our North Island Seniors Housing Foundation group has put out at the end of December, we put out a request for proposals for our new concept, hopefully moving forward. Be closing at the end of this month, so we're hoping to see how some people that are interested in putting together the development plan for the housing that we already have, sort of a tentative idea. So we're kind of really excited about that. Being involved with Ventus, Victoria Island North Training and Attraction Society. Had a meeting actually today with Donna Mary, and one of the new groups that's going to be involved with that is going to be our Learning Council, which is sort of set up with us. And so we talked about a number of different things. We have a meeting coming up on the 2nd of February to talk about how we can move forward and being more in contact with our local businesses in different areas with regards to really what's needed moving forward for training and getting the funding, which is always a big thing, because you got to go for grants, obviously. This Friday, we haven't actually set the time yet. I have to talk to Louisa about that. Probably tomorrow, as regards to setting up a Zoom for our North Island Sustainable Power Coalition. I've reached out to all of the group and for Friday afternoon, haven't picked a time yet, but we'll get that out. It'll be a great discussion with regards to the report. And I believe that, I'm pretty sure that Heather, you've got a copy of that? You haven't got a copy yet? Okay, I better get that out to you then, because I have a copy of it, and then we can pass it on to the rest of the council. It's quite a intensive report, has a lot of interesting things in there. And as one of the mayors, Kevin Cameron, noted today, he said, yeah, I really like the ideas. They said, but where are we gonna get the money? So that's always the big question, but I mean, there's a lot of opportunities there to make some changes for the North Island, so I'm excited about that. So anyways, that's all I have, and I had a great Christmas, and yeah, glad to be home. I was at Edmonton for a couple of weeks and spent some time with my daughter and family, and so it was great, so thank you.
Councillor Texman.
So again, pretty quiet, worked most of the holidays, unfortunately, but that's the way it goes. And one of the biggest things that I'm looking forward to is that I scheduled for the LGLA in early February for elected officials, which I'm looking forward to for more training for myself and more learning. It just, I think one of the biggest things I'm really excited about actually was our committee of the whole meeting today that we had regarding Dr. Natera, is his name? Yeah, and the physician's assistant, is what it's called.
Yeah.
Looking forward to seeing how that plays out. So, yeah, that's it for me.
Thank you. Excuse me, Councillor Tippery.
Christmas was good. I can speak for the seniors. The seniors had a great Christmas dinner, which quite a number of you attended, I think, here. That went very successful. I'm just doing more Kind Connects today, and like Rosalind explained, we have a demo with the Ministry of Health on the 24th that we'll be doing the demo thing, and hopefully, like I say, I'll give you guys a demo of the unit 2, which is quite neat. I did a Zoom today on Food Hub and food, and that's going along quite well. We've talked a bit more about the farmers markets and things like that, and what some would like to see going forward. And that's about it right now.
Thank you. Councillor Smith.
Me too. Mine's pretty quiet portfolio as well, but I had a great Christmas. I got to meet my new niece. That was exciting for me. So I was out of community, but a great time with family, and a big shout out to Port Hardy Recreation. I know a lot of our staff at MCFD there, they really enjoyed the New Year's Eve skate that had gone on and the balloon drop. So well done. I agree with you, Councillor Dorwood, that the community really did a lot of great work over the holidays. So thank you very much.
Thank you. So, and for me, I'd like to do a big shout out to all the service groups that helped out over Christmas, about the Lions, the Rotary, Loaves and Fishes, Hardy Bay Seniors, the Harvest Food Bank. It made, in our rec department as well, just made it so much better for everybody. So thank you. For myself, I as well had a very quiet Christmas. I was sick the majority of the time, and luckily not very many meetings. So that was a different Christmas. But well, 2.5 years of not being sick, I was getting pretty confident I wasn't going to get sick.
You caught the beast that was going around.
I caught the beast.
It was
Yeah.
a nasty one.
Yeah.
When you complimented people, I forgot to mention the Gazette Amp-a-thon too.
And that,
Was very successful this year again.
well, and I know Councillor Dugas went as well as I did with the Loaves and Fishes to help hand out hampers and that, and although you don't want to see people receiving food or going through, it was done in such a gracious way, and everybody was happy and giving back. It's so it's rewarding in itself. But,
Yeah, Loaves and Fishes does a tremendous job for our area.
but as well,
And
said
everything, all
Hamper
the
Fund
volunteers.
it's
Yeah.
huge, and how grateful people are that the community has it. So thank you. All right. So we've got information and announcements coming up, anything that that's missed or needs to be added? Our next council meeting is the 24th, okay. All right, notice of in-camera meeting, we have none on the agenda. Motion to adjourn. Councilor Darwood. Questions pertaining to the agenda from either